Patterning your turkey gun is an extremely important step toward a successful turkey season. So I'm here today to go in depth on turkey gun patterning. Let's get down to business. But before we get into those details, let's start with the basics. So, what does it mean to pattern your turkey gun? It's pretty simple. It's the process of shooting your gun with the load you intend to hunt with, to see how the pellets are going to strike your target downrange. Why is this critical? No different than sighting in a rifle for deer hunting, you need to know where your projectile is going to hit when you squeeze that trigger. Or in this case, what your distribution of pellets looks like as they're heading for that turkey. How do you pattern your turkey gun? All you have to do is shoot it at some paper, or cardboard, or a turkey target, whatever you've got to shoot safely that will show where the pellets are hitting. The beautiful piece of Swiss cheese art you see on that paper is your pattern. At minimum, choose one turkey load off the shelf. There are tons of options out there, but choose a load that's labeled for turkey hunting and pattern it at 40 yards. Why 40 yards? Well, that was established as the standard turkey shooting distance a long time ago. And it's still considered the standard today because any turkey load worth its salt should provide a good enough pattern and lethal energy at 40 yards to kill a turkey. You should also be shooting a full or extra full choke tube if you want to hold a tight pattern out to that magic 40-yard mark. Another thing I want to point out that's really important to realize is the common misnomer that I hear where somebody buys a turkey gun and maybe they use their factory choke or they buy a turkey choke and then they shoot a certain load and they say, oh, that load is junk because it doesn't shoot out of their gun. Well, it doesn't mean the load is junk. It just means that your combination doesn't work well with that load. So that goes both ways with shot shells and with chokes. I hear people say, oh, this choke tube is junk. Well, it just didn't shoot that particular shell well. So the more you try, the better your odds are of finding that right combination. But just realize that basically every modern shot shell that you're gonna find on the shelf for turkey hunting is probably pretty dang good. It's just a matter of how you optimize it between that choke and load combination. The reason you need to pattern your chosen turkey load is because you need to understand what the pattern looks like and how it's shooting out of your gun. Just about every turkey load will shoot differently out of any given shotgun. So before you start cracking away at gobblers, it's your responsibility to know what that pattern looks like. If you're using fixed sights, you might just have to compensate your aim if the point of impact isn't true to your aim. But that's why you should thoroughly consider an adjustable sight system on your turkey gun. Whether it's a simple adjustable fiber optic sight system, or even better, an optic like a red dot. This will allow you to sight in your turkey gun just like your deer rifle. And this is a great time to point out that shooting turkeys isn't like shooting other upland birds. You shouldn't be shooting instinctively. You should have a shot process just like you do with a rifle. Even the most basic turkey gun should be treated like a precision shooting tool. Don't spray and pray. You need to aim, squeeze, follow through, and be ready to make a follow-up shot if you screw up the first one. You can stop right here if you don't want to take your turkey gun to the next level. You've got your shotgun, you've got your full or extra full choke tube, you picked a decent turkey load, and you know where your pattern is hitting downrange. But if you want to maximize the potential of your turkey gun and be more effective at killing gobblers, then stick with me. Like I said before, just about any old shotgun can be used as a turkey gun. But these days, for those of us who geek out on all things turkey hunting, we're blessed to have some badass shotguns that are purpose-built for turkey hunting. So what makes a shotgun a true turkey gun? Well, just like anything in hunting, that's a conversation that can get people pretty riled up. But I'll try to keep it practical. A good turkey gun should probably be camouflaged, and it needs to function reliably with no hiccups, because when you finally get a chance to kill your bird, that gun cannot be the weak link. A lot of turkey guns have pistol grips or thumbhole stocks, which can also be nice, and a sling. You definitely want a sling to be hands-free as you're running and gunning. And perhaps most importantly, a turkey gun should have an adjustable sight system. You need to be able to adjust your sights to match your pattern, so your point of aim is true to your point of impact. And going a step up from that, please consider a red dot sight. Let me explain why. A red dot gives you the adjustability you need to sight in your turkey gun. But more than that, it gives you a precise aiming point to be able to shoot gobblers perfectly at close range or farther ranges. A plain bead sight or even a fiber optic sight begins to cover too much of the bird at distance, even at 40 yards, and it can be just as easy to miss a bird at close range with a basic sight system. Red dots also excel in all light conditions because they have adjustable illumination levels. Another huge benefit of red dot sights is that they're parallax free, so even if you're not perfectly mounted on your gun, your shot is going to hit exactly where you see that dot on the target. Finally, one of the biggest reasons people miss turkeys is because they pull their head off the gun as they're pressing that trigger when they're looking down a barrel through a more traditional sight system. Whereas a red dot does a really good job of forcing you to keep your head down and follow through with that shot, because you know if you don't see the dot, you're not aiming. Whether you go with a red dot or not, just make sure you have an adjustable sight system. Now, let's talk briefly about turkey load selection. Turkey shot shells have come a long way in the past 20 years. The old reliable copper-plated lead shot in a standard wad has been killing turkeys for decades, and it will continue to do so. But you're still watching this video because you decided you want to squeeze more juice out of your turkey gun. One of the best ways you can do that is by investing in TSS, Tungsten Super Shot. This stuff is expensive because the tungsten alloy material is expensive, but it's way denser than lead, like upwards of 60% denser than lead. What this gets you for your turkey load is the ability to use a smaller shot size while still retaining lethal energy. With smaller shot size, you can pack more pellets into your payload, and so what you'll see on paper is that you can get a much better pattern. More pellets with less holes in your pattern to save you from losing those gobblers as they're ducking and weaving. For example, I've been shooting a lot of turkeys with Federal Heavyweight TSS number 9s. Compare that to a shell loaded with the same weight of lead number 5 pellets, and you get more than double the pellet count in your payload. Yet you still get the same amount of energy per pellet. Smaller pellets, big energy, and lots of pellets in your pattern. Plain and simple, TSS is a game changer. Whether you're sold on TSS or not, let's go through a patterning process that you can use to get more out of your turkey gun. The two main variables in your patterns are going to be your choke tube and your turkey load. The more combinations of the two that you're willing to test out of your gun will land you in a better spot with your pattern. Without going too deep into choke tubes, the main thing you need to know is that choke tubes come in a variety of constrictions. Just like the name suggests, a choke tube is choking down that payload before it leaves your muzzle. In general, what makes a choke a turkey choke is that it's a pretty severe constriction because most turkey hunters usually want tighter patterns. Every turkey load is going to shoot differently out of every choke tube. Some constrictions work better than others. And not to overcomplicate matters, but the truth is, even the same model of gun shooting the same load with the same choke tube can produce different patterns. Every gun is just a little bit different. But at the end of the day, if you try several combinations out of your shotgun, you should be able to print a pattern that you're happy with. What should your pattern look like? That's a personal decision, no different than what kind of camo you think is best in the turkey woods. Some turkey hunters strive for a super tight pattern, and others want a wider pattern to provide a margin of error for those rubbernecking gobblers. A tight pattern will hold better at longer distances, but it can make it easier to miss when a turkey struts into your lap. A wider pattern can be a happy medium, but your range will probably be limited. This is why you pattern your turkey gun. This is your chance to experiment to find a pattern that's going to be right for your style of hunting. All right, once you got choke tubes and turkey loads that you want to test, you need to make sure your gun is on paper, just like a rifle. Usually, you can get pretty close by shooting any kind of cheap shot shell, but here's the key. To do this right, you need a large target area. A small 10 or 12 inch shooting target just won't do the trick. You need to see where all the pellets are hitting. Saving or scavenging some cardboard boxes is a cheap and easy way to come up with patterning targets. In this case, I decided to buy a giant roll of 4-foot wide paper from Amazon. To get on paper, keep the target close. Around 15 yards is pretty good. Adjust your sight so your point of impact matches your point of aim with those cheap turkey loads that you're shooting at 15 yards. Now it's time to pattern your turkey loads. You'll want to shoot all your different turkey loads for each of your choke tubes. For this test, I'm shooting 3 choke tubes with 3 turkey loads for my Savage Renegade, so I'll have to shoot 9 times. Start with a fresh target area each time and make sure to write the choke load combo on the paper so you don't lose track of what's what. This is a really great time to practice your shot process, the same one that should be committed to memory by the time you've got a gobbler in your sights. It's also important to have a steady rest. And of course, make sure everything is safe. Wear hearing protection, make sure everything is clear downrange, and make sure your shotgun and choke tube are designed to handle the loads you're shooting, especially if you're shooting TSS. For patterning distance, we're going to stick with that old 40-yard standard. And speaking of old standards, someone at some point decided you want to have at least 100 pellets in a 10-inch circle to have an ethical turkey load. I don't really know where that came from, but it seems fair. The important thing is you need to have enough pellets making contact with the gobbler's head and neck to turn his lights out. Most folks seem to agree that about 8 pellets through the spine and skull will do the job. But when you're even remotely serious about patterning, you can do a hell of a lot better than that. Once you've shot all your patterns, it's time to take a close look at each of them. Find the center of each pattern, draw a 10-inch circle around that center, and see what you're working with. Whether you want a super tight pattern or a wider pattern, either way, ideally you do not want a pattern that has any big holes or gaps in the pellet distribution. And if you want to get really fancy, do a manual pellet count to see how many pellets landed in that 10-inch circle. Choose your favorite pattern and then rock and roll with that turkey and choke load combo that produced it. Then sight on your turkey gun for that combo. Finally, it's a good idea to shoot your new setup at all the distances where you intend to shoot gobblers, so you know exactly what you're dealing with in the field. Thanks for watching, guys. I really hope you learned something from this video. Now get on out there and kill yourself some gobblers.